Our top 4 kickers put up 21 points, 17 points, 17 points, and 15 points in week 3 alone. If you do not understand the value of a kicker for your fantasy team, God help you, because I clearly cannot. But that's why we go through kicker rankings on a weekly basis, and we're doing the same thing for week 4 fantasy football. And I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers who covers kickers on a weekly basis, so please go down there and drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now, getting into our first tier of kickers right here, I've got Cam Little back inside the top tier of kicker rankings this week. He's at number 1. He's going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers this week. And obviously, guys, Cam Little has the leg. And listen, last week, I left him outside of the top 12, and many people were like, why would you do that? I'm riding with Cam Little. Guys, kicker is such a unique thing. It's completely dependent on offense and matchup, and last week, he only put up 5 points, and he actually missed a field goal last week. It wasn't a good matchup for him. This week, it is a good matchup. It's versus the San Francisco 49ers, who are very devastated with injuries on a yearly basis, by the way. I think that doctor needs to be investigated over there if you want to know the truth. With the amount of injuries that they get, it's not a coincidence. But this week, I want Cam Little as my number 1 kicker again. We know this guy has the leg. I don't think that this accuracy issue is going to persist, and I want this matchup for 2 reasons. The San Francisco defense is weakened, and this Jags offense is moving the ball against everybody. I think Cam Little's a great kicker this week, and I've got Tyler Loop at number 2 of the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. This to me feels like one of those 17-14 type of games, or maybe 20-17 type of games where the kicker is going to be very involved. And Tyler Loop last week, he ended up getting 7 fantasy points against the Lions. I think they end up doing better offensively and moving the ball better against the Chiefs defense, who I actually think is a solid defense as well. But I will say this, I do think that this is a particular matchup that, again, there's a lot of field goals. Baltimore has historically not done well with Lamar Jackson versus the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know if they're going to be that efficient offensively, leaving a lot of field goal opportunities for Tyler Loop this week. And at number 3 to round out this tier, I've got Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Bucks going back to Tampa to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this matchup here, I also think could be a very field goal heavy game for the Bucks in particular. So they're going to be missing Mike Evans. We actually don't know if Godwin's going to actually end up playing this week or not. He was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. He may leave the door open to go. But either way, right now, as it sits, it's a banged up Baker Mayfield. It's a banged up Emeka Egbuka and Bucky Irving. I think they'll get down there because their offense is talented enough, but I think there's going to be a lot of field goal opportunities this week, similar to last week where Chase McLaughlin was the kicker number 1. And this is the perfect guy to go pick up off waivers using our automatic waiver wire tool. Every day when waivers clear, there's a mad dash to go get the rest of the guys on the wire in the middle of the night. Well, what our system has done is automated that entire process for you so you can sleep through the night and still beat the guys waking up at 3 in the morning to go get what's left off the waiver wire. So to get access to the automatic waiver wire tool, join the premium subscription at FS Roundup and you will get a 12-day free trial to go try out this for yourself. Now, dropping down to our next tier, I've got Brandon Aubrey at number 4, and he is taking on the Packers on Sunday night in Dallas. Now, here's the deal with Brandon Aubrey, right? I don't think that his ceiling is as high as it would be if CeeDee Lamb was there. Because, again, kickers are very dependent on what they've got around them offensively. This is a bad situation now that they are losing their best offensive piece. I think they'll struggle to move the ball, particularly against the Packers. That being said, we all know the leg on this guy is enormous. 64-yard long field goal this year. Like, he's just a ridiculously good kicker in fantasy football because he just doesn't need to be that close to be able to get you points. So even though last week was a lower scoring week, I think they rebound a little bit this week now that they're able to game plan without CeeDee Lamb this week. Jake Bates is at number 5, and he's going back home to Detroit after a big win to take on the Browns. Jake Bates, I think this week versus the Browns, it is, again, one of those matchups I could see being sneaky tough. Because I'll be honest here, I'm not sure if I believe the Browns defense is that good or if it's because the Packers had an off day. I don't know what I believe because the Browns have given up points to two previous teams earlier this season. But I think either way, Detroit's offense is too good and they look too powerful like they always have to leave a kicker outside of this list right here at this point. Because I think whether Jake Bates kicks 4 field goals or 1 field goal in this game, he'll still get enough points because they'll be getting the ball down there very consistently with this offense that he's going to be a top 5 kicker this week. And then Brandon McManus is at number 6 to round out this tier, and he goes to Dallas to take on the Cowboys on Sunday night. Now, Brandon McManus, again, last week was bad. I mean, he had a blocked kick, so that obviously affected his fantasy score, but that wasn't really his fault. The blocked kick is not a kicker's fault most of the time. And I think that Brandon McManus and this Green Bay offense comes in way hotter this week versus the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's a get-right week for the Green Bay Packers this week, and Brandon McManus ends up kicking way better this week, and Brandon McManus is an important piece to this offense moving the ball this week. I've got Brandon McManus easily at number 6.
This is Ted. Look at him. Ted desperately needs to pick up a new running back, or his fantasy team is toast for the 3rd year in a row. And losing his season again means one thing.
Oh, no.
Don't be Ted. Use Fantasy Football Roundup to automate your waiver pickups and rest easy this season. Huh. Look at him.
Now, dropping down to our next tier, I've got Harrison Butker at number 7 of the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Baltimore Ravens at home. Now, again, I think this game is very logically, in my mind, going to be a field goal heavy game. Now, that being said, Harrison Butker, while he used to be dead on accurate, he has had accuracy issues for the past 2 years now in the NFL. So I don't think of Harrison as this like undisputed top kicker in fantasy. And given the offense is as weak as it is right now in Kansas City, there's lots of opportunities there for Harrison Butker, but he's simply not executing on all his opportunities. And not all of them are like 50-plus yard long field goals that he's missing. He's missed like 30, 40-yard field goals. I don't think that he's the same kicker he used to be, but that being said, I do still see this as a matchup where the Chiefs get a lot of points out of field goals, so I have to have him inside my top 10. I've got Eddie Pinheiro at number 8 of the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars this week in San Francisco. Again, I think that this could be a very field goal heavy game for the 49ers because they're just missing so many pieces, right? Obviously, George Kittle's been out. Christian McCaffrey is still good, which is a great thing. Ricky Pearsall is still good, which is a great thing. But Jawan Jennings may or may not play in this game. They've got offensive linemen missing. And, of course, Brock Purdy is still banged up and may not be as mobile as he once was. I think that this matchup, it just offers good upside because it's Jacksonville's defense, which we know can be beaten. It has been beaten several times this year already. So I just do think that there's opportunity here. And Pinheiro has been pretty good for the San Francisco 49ers. They're not an offense that's consistently getting in the end zone. He has had plenty of opportunities, and I think he continues to execute on those opportunities. And it's this week against the Jags that I think he's a top 10 play. Now, Spencer Schrader is at number 9 to round out this tier, and he's going to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Now, listen, he's been great. Like, Spencer Schrader is the number 1 kicker in fantasy right now, averaging 15 fantasy points per game. And it's no secret, this offense has looked so much better than anybody ever gave them credit for. He has not had a single game in single-digit fantasy points this year. He's been fantastic. But he goes to the Rams this week to take their defense on, and I think it's a tougher defense to take on. And I've said this all week. I am still a Daniel Jones doubter, and maybe I'm wrong for doing it. And if he does well this week, I probably won't doubt him anymore. I think we'll be watching Sam Darnold of 2024 in 2025 with Daniel Jones if he ends up doing well this week. But as of now, I'm going to say that I don't believe in their offense this week quite as much, but I still think that Spencer Schrader, with the talent they have, can get down there in the range and do well. Now, dropping down to our last tier, I've got Will Lutz at number 10, and he's taking on the Cincinnati Bengals at home in Denver on Monday nights. Now, this is an ideal matchup for any fantasy option in Denver. I want in on Cortland Sutton. I want in on J.K. Dobbins and Bo Nix. And I want in on the kicker too if there is not an option any better. But I will say this, Will Lutz has had issues with accuracy so far this year. He did miss a field goal and he's only kicked a 42-yard long. This offense is aggressive. I do still see them getting a lot of touchdowns in this game. So if he doesn't come up with 1 or 2 field goals, it probably won't hit because he'll kick 4 extra points at the very least, which is only 4 points. But I do still see there being an opportunity here because the matchup against Cincy's defense is way too good to overlook. Jason Myers is at 11, and he goes to Arizona tonight to take on the Cardinals. Now, I think that this matchup is very unpredictable because on one hand, I think to myself, NFC West matchups are typically lower scoring games with a lot of field goals. And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, look at the defenses that we've seen so far on Thursday night. Outside of the Packers, none of them have been good. So I think that there's opportunity here for the Seattle Seahawks to get in on touchdowns more often than field goals tonight. But I will say this, I just don't think that I can overlook the history of NFC West matchups over the past couple of years, which have historically been lower scoring with more field goals than touchdowns. So I've got Jason Myers inside of the top 12 because the Seahawks have looked pretty good offensively. And then Will Reichard is at 12 to round out the whole thing, and he's going overseas to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Ireland. Now, this matchup, I have said it multiple times this week. I'm weary of this overseas matchup for both sides. I don't have Chris Boswell in here, and he's usually a mainstay. But I don't think that this matchup is good for either team particularly. That being said, I do still see the Minnesota offense good enough to move the ball into range, especially with Jordan Addison coming back. I think Carson Wentz, as of this time, is a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy. Sue me. I do think that, though. And the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, with all the injuries they have, they can be beaten. So I do expect Minnesota to get into range a couple of times at least for Will Reichard to get fantasy points. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below. And if you want to see the top 30 running back rankings for this week, click on this video right here.